Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news and updates on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Daemon Hatfield, and as always, I am joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
Always a pleasure, Daemon.
Same here, and Max Scoville, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Howdy.
And this week, we actually had a report here on IGN that with E3 coming up in June, returning, many had hoped E3 could really return to form. But we got some bad news for anyone who was hoping that, and then probably for bad news for the organizers of this year's show. Reportedly, apparently, the big three, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, will not be attending E3 this year, not doing conferences as part of the show, not even having a booth on the show floor. So, definitely sounds like it's going to be a little bit less exciting than many people were hoping. So let's dig into what this means and what especially PlayStation and Xbox should do instead of going to E3. Ryan, I think Xbox is maybe the one that's the most surprising because they've been very vocally supportive of the ESA, the organization behind E3, very vocal about supporting them in the past, and they've never, they haven't ever taken they were still doing conferences even when PlayStation had left E3 and Nintendo moved to just doing a direct. So I don't know. What do you make of the news?
Well, it's not just what you said, Daemon, but it's also the fact that Microsoft sits on the board of the ESA. So it's an extra bad look for the ESA, the organizers of E3, when one of their board members says, "You know what? Nah, we're gonna sit this one out." Now, what I expect will happen is that Microsoft will show up as if they were there, but they're just not officially part of E3, because Microsoft has the Microsoft Theater next door, which is also where the Game Awards takes place. They're right next to the Los Angeles Convention Center, downtown LA, and there's enough space in there. There's a whole labyrinth down in the bowels of that place, where there are meeting rooms and places that I've spent in the past. I saw Forza Horizon 4 down there. I've seen a lot of Xbox games. There's a good chance that Microsoft will give a keynote, their summer showcase that they've already promised us. They will show off games, and they will give behind closed doors demos to media folks like us, but they just won't do it they won't pay the ESA for the privilege. They'll just do it right next door in their own building. So they'll be there, but they won't be there, is my expectation / prediction on this.
This is probably a long shot, but what do you think about this possibility? In January of 2022, when Microsoft announced its intentions to acquire Activision Blizzard, it said at the time it expected the acquisition to close in June of 2023. Any chance they're too busy focusing on that right now?
I can't imagine those two things would really overlap. I would expect they'd have an envelope A and an envelope B of, well, if Activision Blizzard's with us, we can give this showcase, this at E3, or if it's tangled up in legal, or if it gets shut down by regulators, we can go with Plan B. Yeah, I would expect they have a contingency for any and all situations.
And if they do have some sort of a show that's adjacent to E3 at that time, Redfall will be out, Diablo 4 will almost be out. Starfield, you think that'll be their main focus then?
I'm still optimistic that game will be out. Until we are told it's not, I'm still going to hold out hope. But if it's not out, then I'm sure we'll get one last big presentation, or at least launch trailer, or some kind of final send off for that one before it's actually out.
What else could be a possibility? Hellblade 2, not Alan Wake 2, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you, but no, you're right to bring that one up, Daemon, because Alan Wake 2, that's a big game. It's third party this time. Epic's publishing. It's multi-platform. I have to imagine that the two major first parties here, with respect to Nintendo, but Alan Wake 2 is not coming out for Switch. Sony and Microsoft are probably going to be fighting over which one gets to have Alan Wake 2 on their stage, because it is a big game, and it's So Alan Wake 2 is going to be on somebody's stage, but yeah, you're right, Daemon. The second half of 2022 is an open question for Microsoft. I think it's probably time to at least get at the showcase, the E3 showcase, at least get a full-length demo of Hellblade 2, as you mentioned, since we got a taste of that at the Game Awards 2021. Do you announce Gears of War 6 there, maybe? Do you announce, hopefully, what id Software is up to? It'll have been over 3 years since Doom Eternal shipped. You've got, it seems like Perfect Dark's probably still a long ways off. Maybe Fable, first tease of that gameplay would be a big one for sure. That's E3 worthy for the summer showcase. So there's still plenty of cards for Microsoft to play this summer.
And Max, it's less surprising to hear that Sony won't be at E3. They haven't been at E3 in a very long time. But we have talked a lot recently about how this year is still kind of a big question mark for Sony and PlayStation. They're about to launch PSVR 2, which, according to some reports, demand might be a little bit soft for that. They have an expansion for Horizon Forbidden West in April. And then we're expecting Spider-Man 2 sometime in this fall. But that's kind of it, right? So what would you expect Sony to do instead of E3, and what do you think they need to do?
In terms of E3, I'd love it if they did something around there. They did I was wrong last week. They did a state of play that was around, it was like June 2nd. I think it was like right before when E3 would have been. But I think Sony needs to decide on sort of where their messaging is. Like, where are they putting it? Are they doing something that is controlling the messaging and having something that is pointed directly at their audience, making sure they get people's attention? And if that's the case, I think they really need to nail down what is a state of play. Like, what does that mean? Because we've had ones that are like, here's the entire launch lineup for the PSVR. Here's the PlayStation 5 reveal, and it's sort of all the same packaging with different stuff inside. And I would love it if there was like just kind of a even cadence, have it on a regular basis, whether it's every 3 months or every month or every 6 weeks or whatever it is. Just really explain what it is, set people's expectations at the tail end, be like, come tune in next month when we do this thing again. You can expect to hear about this, and this. Keep people from getting too excited, but at least kind of have that level of like, oh, I know what's coming down the road. Like, I'll have a little bit of consistency to that, because I think that would be really nice. It'd be a good chance to showcase like new stuff that's coming out, stuff that's in the immediate future, and you could do big, huge teases and reveals. And it's, again, you pick a day of the week when there isn't a bunch of other stuff going on, which is completely separate from what E3 is. Like, E3 is very much about sort of spectacle and showcase and big, loud pomp and pageantry and all that. If they want to do something that's big, loud pomp and pageantry and is a big, fun event for fans to go to, bring back PSX. I would love it if there was a physical event. Like, clearly E3 is awkwardly pivoting to be something that fans can go to. And I guess that doesn't sit super well with a lot of the publishers who are pulling out, like we're discussing right now. But, in the past, Sony has done PSX, and it's a really fun event. Like, I've said this a bunch of times, but like, the more focused a fan event is, the more intimate it is, and the more fun it is to be there. Like, I think, something like San Diego Comic-Con is, at this point, it's like Coachella with everything but music. Like, it's a massive scatter shot of just pop culture in general, to the point that it's like, what are you a fan of if you're there? Is it comics? Is it shows? Is it Funko Pops? Like, what is it? And like, meanwhile, something like Star Wars Celebration is like, if you're there, you like Star Wars, and so does everyone else, presumably. And, there's obviously plenty of infighting to be found in a community like that. Same with any fandom. But it's like it's people coming together around a singular thing. And that's what PSX was. And it was phenomenal because of that, People were walking around with their PSN IDs on their shirt. And it was, you're taking pictures with the Aloy or whatever. Like, there's just, it felt very kind of theme parky in a fun way. And it's, it's a place you could do big reveals, and you're going to have a somewhat captive audience. I guess they could probably, take bathroom breaks and do ins and outs if they want. But they're, they bought the ticket to take the ride. They're your bread and butter. They're the ones who care the most. And it's, you're also reaping all the benefits. That is entirely, like, if it's your show, it's your show.
And am I remembering correctly, Max, didn't the first PSX, didn't Sony do a big, like, stage showcase and show off a bunch of games?
Yeah.
Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, no, they paired it with like a proper presentation.
Like a press conference, right? Basically, yeah.
It was awesome.
I think it was for Uncharted 4, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
PSX all blurs together me, but yeah, it was great.
PSX was very cool. I would love to see that return too. Ryan, didn't Xbox used to have something similar?
Pre-pandemic. Yeah, they did finally bring back the sort of XO events.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we got an inside Xbox at one of those. Anything pre-pandemic is foggy in my head at this point. But
Sure.
Yeah, they did eventually come along after, on Unlocked we would cry about it for a while. Like, do a PSX, like this works, it's fun, it's great for your community, and they did finally do it, and then the world turned upside down. So yeah, it's if Sony's gonna back out of E3, but Microsoft's committing to summer and has the venue next door to E3, it kind of makes sense for them to do that. But that's a great idea, Max. I mean, you can bring the community back while also showing off a bunch of cool new games. You can get everybody under one roof and really just drive home the sort of awesome community feeling of PlayStation.
I mean, the thing that makes me sad about Nintendo specifically skipping E3 is that their booth was always the most fun. Like it was like a theme park. And part of me is like, oh man, that was like a Nintendo theme. They have a Nintendo theme park. Why would they pay the ESA to set one up when they could just have their own, Super Nintendo world? And I don't know. I guess Sony could go. Like they're already started to go the sort of Nintendo Direct route, which is, it's fairly clinical, it's kind of sterile, but it's also to the point, and people kind of, they tune in, they sit down, they either are happy about it or they write angry comments or whatever. But then it's also like, it's fun to have some of that, just like that fluff, that silly stuff on the side, and like it's fun to get excited about. It's fun to be a fan. It's fun to enjoy things, and it would be cool if we had kind of like both those things in one place.
Well, who knows what E3 will look like this year without the participation of Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo. No publishers have been confirmed as of yet, so I think ReedPop definitely has its work cut out for them, resurrecting E3 from the grave. We'll see what it looks like this June. Some other news this week, we've gotten the first big next-gen game delay of the year, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, delayed from March into April, about a 6-week delay. Now it's coming out April 28th, same day as Dead Island 2. That will be an easy choice for me on what to play that day. I don't know, Max, I know you're a big Star Wars fan. Were you bummed about the delay?
I mean, I'm going to have to pick between that and Dead Island. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to play Star Wars. Yeah, I feel like this is, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I feel like this is maybe not the first of many, but the first of some. Like, I think as, next-gen games, they're still big. There's a lot of moving parts. It's still relatively new hardware in spite of having been out for a while. And there's going to be, I don't know, I think a lot of publishers have looked at sort of ill-received, buggy games at launch, and they don't want that to happen. One of the big things that people always kind of bring up sort of after the butt when talking about, Jedi Fallen Order is that it was like rough around the edges. And eventually all that stuff mostly got patched out, but I don't think they want to repeat that. So, 6 weeks, cool, whatever. It's a bummer, but, it doesn't seem like there's too much else going on then, aside from Dead Island, which Dead Island 2, am I right?
Yeah, and I think we got to give EA a little bit of credit. I know they're the popular internet punching bag, but 6 weeks may seem insignificant, but it's moving from one fiscal quarter to another, which is a big deal for any like big publicly traded company. So kudos to Vince Zampella is up there pretty high up in the leadership structure at EA now, and I'm sure Stig, the director of Jedi Survivor, went to him and said, "Hey, can you get us some more time? We want to clean this thing up and have it be super polished." And they and EA leadership listened to Stig and Vince. So 6 weeks is nothing in exchange for a nice bit more polish, and it was kind of going to be one of the only really big things out in mid-March. I guess the RE4 remake was out around that time too. But yeah, like now it sort of kicks off one hell of a run at the end. You go Jedi Survivor, and hey, we're gonna give Dead Island 2 a shot too. It looks fun from what we've seen so far.
Be fine. Los Angeles is not an island. I don't care what you say. That's factually inaccurate.
Yeah, it's it's got that demerit going against it. And then so you go Jedi Survivor into Redfall. Fast forward a couple weeks into Zelda, and then you go into Diablo 4 and Final Fantasy 16. And Street Fighter 6 and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Yep.
So it is going to be one heck of a run this spring into the summer for all of us gamers.
Yeah.
I don't really see it dying down in the fall either. That just doesn't. I think there's going to be some surprises getting announced at whoever's announcing things at E3.
But that's kind of the thing, is that after that incredible run through June, the back half of the year, kind of a mystery. Not too many release dates in the back half of the year so far. Another piece of news this week I wanted to discuss is James Gunn sort of rolled out the roadmap for the DCU going forward, and how now the plan is everything is going to be in one universe: movies, TV shows, animated films, and video games. So video games will be canon with movies and TV shows. Don't think that will affect Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which is probably just being polished up right now, ready to go out the door in a couple months. But it makes me wonder about Wonder Woman from Monolith, revealed at the Game Awards, which was in December. What is it, 2 years ago now?
Well, little over a year. Yeah, a year and a month, 13 months ago.
It was just last year when that was?
Yeah, 2021.
Okay, well, still, no updates on the game since then. Well, I don't know. Yeah. So, Ryan, do you think this plan will have any sort of effect on that game?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. Max and I were just talking about this off air. And Max, you were very wisely speculating, like, we don't wish any ill will on Monolith's a super talented developer, but like when you have this kind of shakeup at the very top, and James Gunn has specifically said games are a part of this vision we have, it could result in Wonder Woman getting canceled, given that we haven't seen anything from it, right? I mean, again, not wishing that, no. But we have to look at what WB has been doing and this reset, and that's and unfortunately it's an option that seems like it's on the table.
Yeah, I mean, it's always possible. What we saw at the Game Awards was like a very, very sizzly CGI trailer. Mm-hmm. What we know about the game is that it is apparently open world adventure, I believe, that it focuses on Diana of Themyscira. It sounds like they're really leaning heavily on the sort of Themyscira sort of mythological side of it. I think, some people will be like, oh, it'll be like Arkham, but you're Wonder Woman swinging around beating up crooks or whatever. But I think it's going to be more on sort of the epic fantasy end of things, though there is going to be some element of like, the races of men coming onto the island or what. I don't know exactly what that is. There has been job listings that talk about procedural narrative and procedural dialogue, which makes me think that they're going to have something akin to the Nemesis system coming back, which about time. We've been kind of hoping to see more of that for a very long time.
They trademarked that, you remember?
Did they?
They actually did, and I remember Josh Sawyer, director of the 10 out of 10 scoring game on IGN, Pentiment. He went public. He tweeted. He was like, he was not thrilled with the idea of a video game company patenting a gameplay feature. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
That sucks. Use it then. Do something with it. I'm sort of indifferent to Wonder Woman. I don't have any particularly strong feelings. I'm willing to give it a shot. I kind of said the same thing going into Shadow of Mordor. Like, I like Lord of the Rings, but being like, oh, you're just playing as some like random dude with a ghost in his ring. Like, I don't know who's this man. I don't know. This feels like weird fan fiction. I love that game. I thought the first one was phenomenal. Second one doubled down on systems I wasn't wild about. We're getting in the weeds here. James Gunn did point out that they are going to lean into there being Elseworlds, which has been a term applied to DC stuff that is not in the main canonical timeline. DC was always kind of first and foremost doing multiverse stuff. They're always kind of like, a lot of this stuff doesn't really line up perfectly, so let's just have fun with it. You've got stuff like Gotham by Gaslight, you've got Dark Knight Returns, you've got Batman Beyond. There's all these different, scattered versions of their characters, which is great. They're moving ahead with Todd Phillips' Joker sequel. We're still going to have, Teen Titans Go, and Peter Safran and James Gunn called this out in the meeting, being like, we're going to have Elseworlds. It's cool. We're not going to try to have everything fit into the same sphere. I hope they allow that to happen with games as well, because that's what the Arkhamverse is. That's what the Suicide Squad exists within. It's this pocket galaxy, basically. And maybe Wonder Woman will get to exist in one of those, but again, it's sort of it's a entire question mark. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been over a year since we had any sort of official information about that game, so I like Monolith's games. I think they could do cool things with that property. So I hope this news doesn't delay the game even further. We'd love to get an update on that game sometime soon. Maybe at E3. That'd be a good time for that. Before we go, we have the results from the poll from last week's episode when we asked you, when do you think, dear viewer, that Starfield will be out? And Ryan, 76% think it's the holiday 2023 game.
I mean, we've been conditioned to, I fault no one for voting fall. I mean, that is history suggests that that's the more likely outcome. So sure. I'm trying to hold on to some optimism we got a shadow dropped awesome game in Hi-Fi Rush last week. So I'm embracing the new optimistic era of Xbox. So I'm gonna hang on to that hope that it still makes, as promised, that it's out by June per the last year's Xbox showcase.
I just don't know where they could fit it in, because as we were talking about, once Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Dead Island 2 hit, there's a whole gauntlet of big game releases all through June, so I just don't know where they would fit Starfield in. We'll see. A poll for you to vote on for next week. What do you most look forward to at E3? Do you like the new game announcements? Do you like gameplay demos? Do you like getting release dates for games that you're excited for? Make sure to vote at IGN.com. We'll share the results with you next week. And that will do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Max and Ryan. Thank you to everyone working in our LA and San Francisco studios to make this all possible. My name is Daemon. We'll be back next week, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, with more PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll see you then.